Hey guys, welcome back to Trek on the Tube. Sorry for the late release. This week has been crazy for me. Sometimes life has a way of keeping you busy. Anyway, this is my Star Trek review and Easter eggs video for Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 3. The end is the beginning. Let's get straight to it, which is admittedly not one of the show's strong points. Look, I don't mind the slower pace, and I don't mind the exposition and setup. I actually enjoy watching shows that slowly carve themselves into the story they want to tell, just as much as the shows that, drop you in the middle of the action. I think both techniques, when well done, can be very effective. But Picard, I think, fumbled its introductory period just a tad by dragging it out just a bit too much. What I mean is these first 3 episodes almost make up a chapter of sorts, the chapter on Earth, the pre-space adventure, if you will. And I would have preferred it to be done in 2 episodes, not 3. A solid, focused, more traditional 2-parter I think would have worked much better than what we got. It would have not only helped with the restlessness the audience has about the show really getting underway, but it would have also made the show not feel so much like it's stalling, I guess. If I'm honest though, the reason why I'm saying this is because we already know that the full season will only have 10 episodes, and so spending 3 of them, 3 entire episodes on setup makes me feel like maybe the end of the season will be rushed, or the wrap-up will be too quick. I don't know. We haven't seen the rest of the season, so we'll just have to wait and see. Alright, so, Episode 3. Much like Episode 2, I was quite disheartened at first, after my first watch, and I've come to realize that that's simply because I have such high expectations, it's ridiculous. Anyway, now that I've seen it a few times, I feel that it's actually pretty good. See, Episode 2, I'd easily put it in the same category as a lot of those early, bland Enterprise episodes. The thing was watchable, but not because of the story, mostly because we're invested in the characters. Episode 3, however, was a bit different. It had details that upon first watch annoyed me to the point where I was blinded to the story unfolding before my eyes. But those details, that's what they are. They're just details. I can look past most of them. Truth is, as I was saying earlier, the problem doesn't lie with the episode itself. It lies more with the way that the season as a whole is being structured. This episode, story-wise, I thought wasn't bad at all, and I quite enjoyed it. So let's keep the talk of the overall structure of the season for the end of season review. Let's talk about the episode itself, and let's first talk about the things that I didn't like, just to get them out of the way. The episode opened with a flashback to 14 years ago. That specific scene was one I had a few problems with. I don't understand why Raffi was kicked out of Starfleet for following Picard's orders. It's not a thing that I've seen Starfleet do very often, so I was a bit confused by that. I also don't like the way she said, "My ass got fired because of you." I mean, everyone freaked out about the Admiral saying fuck last week, but more concerning I find is the nonchalance and ease with which everyone on the show keeps on using these mild swear words. The Admiral curse word, though I disagree with it, was put there to shock both the audience and Picard. It served a specific purpose. "My ass got fired" is simply 21st century casual talk. It's simply, today's lingo. It feels too contemporary. And then Picard's walk didn't feel natural. I know it's outrageous to say this, believe me, because it is Sir Patrick Stewart's natural walk. But they took the time to digitally de-age him very effectively. It's a shame, I guess, that he still walked the same as in present day in the show. Final comment about that scene, Michelle Hurd's performance, it didn't really work for me. And it didn't in the next scene she was in either. It's not my intention to be mean or disrespectful, but Michelle Hurd's performance was honestly a step under everyone else's in this episode, or at least that's what I found. Maybe she hadn't, found her footing yet or gotten into the groove of her character. I don't know. Sometimes it takes time to really understand the character that you're playing, and performances get better over time. Maybe the character just isn't made for her. But the way she delivered some of those lines was not on point. Funny thing is, every Star Trek show has someone like this, even if we're not always willing to admit it. It's tradition, I guess. In any case, that might be one of the reasons why I didn't very much like her character. Of course, she'll have plenty of time to grow and change, so it's not a true complaint, just a comment. The complaint really is about the contemporary feel of the episode, as I mentioned before. Yes, there's the swearing, but also the implied poverty of Raffi and her vaping, and then the Commodore with her sunglasses. That was a bit of an odd choice. I'm afraid that Picard as a science fiction show depicting the future won't age as well as other iterations of Star Trek because of this very today feel that it has. I might be mistaken, but that's what I'm afraid of. Anyway, the episode was wonderfully directed. From the character moments to the fight scenes, it's impossible to have any complaints about that. I mean, that fight scene was probably one of the best I've seen in modern Star Trek. And the same goes for the lighting. Everything on screen is so crisp and easy to read. It truly is wonderful to watch. The music is good as well. The performances are on point. Well, except, But as I said, it might take a little time. I'm sure she'll find her character very soon. Something I very much enjoyed was the double interrogation sequence. How Soji was talking to the ex-Borg and Picard was talking to the Romulan. The way that was cut together made for some very, very dynamic storytelling. And the Soji-Hugh duo worked so much better than the Soji-Narek duo. Seriously. The visual effects were adequate. I mean, in these moments you can clearly see what fake elements were added into the shot, but it's fine. It's nothing to get upset about, especially considering the visual effects that are truly important, as in the de-aging of Picard, were absolutely amazing. Some of the dialogue was a bit wonky. Some of it, for the most part, it was impeccable. For example, Raffi calling Picard JL. So it's not so much the fact that she calls him JL, that's okay. It's the fact that she says it like 7 times in the episode. We get it. You gave him a nickname. Just get over it. That was annoying. But, on the other hand, for the first time ever, it's actually established that the Romulan physical differences are indeed regional. Laris talked about Northerners when referring to the Romulan that they were interrogating, and that's so awesome. That's so cool. I love that. The sets are also great, as is the location shooting. I find the Borg cube to be not very Borg, if you know what I mean, but I'm okay with that. Not only has it been heavily modified and adapted by the Romulans using it as the reclamation site, but also the Borg are in a constant state of evolution and upgrade, so it does make sense that the designs and technology would change over time. 30 years have passed since we last saw a cube. A lot can happen in that time. I guess the only thing that's left to talk about is Hugh. For those that don't know, Hugh is a returning character. He was first featured in The Next Generation as one of the first Borg encountered by Starfleet to be separated from the collective. Jonathan Del Arco's performance is impeccable. Hugh very much still feels like Hugh, even if he's a bit more bitter. Anyway, I love the way that they seamlessly, very unceremoniously brought him back. They didn't make a big deal of it. They didn't make a big deal about the return of Hugh. They just showed him. I honestly think that's great. Not every character in the universe of Star Trek is as important as, say, Picard. And so we don't need to make as big of a deal of them returning to our screens. Simply, they are part of the universe, and if the story being told happens to feature them or cross paths with them, then we see them. I love that. That's great. So, overall, episode 3 was a little disconcerting to me at first, but turned out to be an episode I quite enjoyed. It had the very difficult job of being the wrap-up. It was on the tail end of a kind of 3-part story arc that they maybe dragged on for a little bit too long, but this episode, it can't be punished for that. It's not its fault for being the 3rd episode in that sense. It's the general arc that was a bit long. You know what? It was beautifully directed, and turns out it's a pretty good episode. Let us now move on to the Easter eggs and references. Before we begin though, the sunglasses. I found them to be a little bit out of place. They are, part of that contemporary feel problem I was talking about. But what I really want to say is, to all of you who proclaim Vulcans don't need sunglasses because they have those inner eyelids that protect them from, the bright light, she is not Vulcan. She is Romulan. And I think that the sunglasses was simply a not too subtle way of telling us that. Anyway. Rios has an EMH, an emergency medical hologram. The one that we've seen the most is the one from Voyager. Clearly the technology has been upgraded or changed because now rather than having one model on the market, you can have them personalized. He also has an ENH, an emergency navigation hologram. It makes sense to think that various models with different specializations exist. I mean, even in Voyager, the EMH wants to become the ECH at times, the emergency command hologram. Note that their presence does confirm that the ban on synthetics does not apply to holograms. One of those very holograms, I forget which one. Anyway, when seeing Picard starts listing a whole bunch of his accomplishments: chief contact with the Q Continuum, arbiter of succession for the Klingon Empire, worked alongside Spock, Captain of the USS Enterprise D. This is all stuff from the Next Generation. He also says Captain of the Enterprise E and Savior of Earth from the Borg invasion. This references the Next Generation movies, specifically First Contact. Dr. Girardi at one point is listening to music. She's listening to the Caecilian Opera, probably a reference to Kolba and Stamets from Discovery. In that flashback scene that we mentioned earlier, Rafi talks about the inventories of Iridani A and Beta Antares. These two shipyards have never been previously mentioned in dialogue, only referred to on ship dedication plaques, that kind of thing. She also states that Romulus is in the Beta Quadrant, which is again the first time in dialogue. Hugh is the leader of the XBs, the X-Borgs on that reclamation site. He was already the leader of a group of X-Borg in his second appearance on The Next Generation. Rafi has a bottle of Saurian brandy. We saw these very fun, unique-looking bottles for the first time in the original series. The name of the crypto algorithm, or whatever the hell that is, that popped up on her screen is Gorn Egg, a reference to the Gorn species. Two things in this episode remind us that though Picard is a different man, he still is the same. Rafi told Rios he's a speechmaker. We know that to be true. It has been shown multiple times on The Next Generation that he indeed enjoys making speeches, and he says he's never quite felt at home on the Vineyard, which is something he already felt and expressed back in The Next Generation as well. The sunglasses we saw the fake Vulcan wear aren't exactly something new. We've already seen Archer wear sunglasses in Enterprise when he went to planet Vulcan. Picard ends the episode by saying his catchphrase, basically, engage. These are the Vasquez rocks. So many things in Star Trek and in, just movies and shows in general have been filmed there. In Picard, for the first time ever in Star Trek, the rocks aren't just a place to film. Rafi actually lives at the actual Vasquez rocks. These aren't exactly Easter eggs, but I don't know when I could talk about this. I'm not gonna make a news video about this. Anyway, Michael Chabon, the current showrunner for Star Trek Picard, he'll be the showrunner for season 1, has been talking about this episode a bit online because there's a lot of conversation going on, as much about the alcohol as the smoking and the informal way that Rafi addresses Picard, calling him JL. I'm gonna focus a bit on the vaping and the cigar. I have no problem with a cigar being on screen. I don't know why, because it's natural, I guess. It is just tobacco leaves rolled up. Anyway, the way Michael Chabon kind of justifies this or defends this is by talking about his Latin American heritage. He says that he wants to keep, close to that. Rafi is apparently not vaping. Chabon wrote, and I quote, Rafi is using a traditional Orion flash pipe known as a harg... I can't pronounce that, employed for centuries on that world to sublimate the fleshy tendrils of an intoxicant plant known as the hawks or snake leaf. So Rafi is essentially doing alien drugs. And look, it may seem very weird, but I'm more okay with her doing Orion drugs than her vaping. Vaping, I think, is a today trend. It's a trend on today's Earth and today's society, and I think it's just going to die off, so it makes no sense to have it in Star Trek. But if she's doing alien drugs, why not? It is Star Trek, so she can do alien drugs. That's how my mind works. It might not be right, but that's how I feel. And that's it. We end this video with a little French. Rios says I'm arriving chez vous at one point, which means at your home, at your place, at your house, whatever tickles your fancy. Zaban says Madame Arnaud's terrine d'oie, which essentially means Miss Arnaud's goose terrine, which is a kind of pâté. Technically, he said it the wrong way around. He should have said La terrine d'oie de Madame Arnaud, because English and French don't work the same way. But he's Romulan, so I guess we can excuse the guy. And there you have it. That's my review. Those are the Easter eggs. That was my video. What did you guys think of the episode? Thank you so much for watching. Vous êtes les meilleurs. Remember to subscribe, like, share with your friends. You can support the channel on Patreon if you want to see it get better. And as usual, live long and prosper.